Marie Callender's sells pumpkin pie for $7.49 a pop. Exactly what the Pilgrims intended. But can we make one that is even cheaper, homemade? This is a special Thanksgiving thawed out. And look at that, it gives you a perfect pie every time. Sorry everyone, this is the B set. Pumpkin pies need a couple hours to set after they're done, and we ended up just doing this thing just a couple days after we shot the video, so bear with me here. This is the Marie Callender's pumpkin pie, and what I'm immediately seeing is just how wet it looks. I can see some of it leaking onto the plate, and the crust is extra delicate. If I just breathe on it, it seems like it'll just crumble apart. But I will say it is decently thick, so it's not like there's a lack of pumpkin material or anything like that. But let's try it. It's actually incredibly rich, but I almost feel like I can taste the soggy crust dough on the bottom. Seems like parts of it didn't really bake as much as it should have. I'm not offended by the pie though, it's fine, it's passable as pumpkin pie. And just to reiterate, I live in a small Midwest town, I'm only buying from basic grocery stores, and I'm only purchasing items that are mostly store brand or basic items, so no premium items. This might be the price that I end up with, but it may not be the price that you end up with, depending on where you live and where you shop. So let's thaw this recipe out. You can take pie crust in two different directions, pre-made and homemade. We want this to be as cheap as possible to compete with the frozen pie, so we'll be making homemade today. Rest assured, pre-made crust is still valid. To make the crust, start with 1 3/4 cups of flour, 5 tablespoons of cold cubed butter, and 5 tablespoons of small cubed cold vegetable shortening. Toss in some salt. Using a pastry cutter, mix it all together, then incrementally add 4 tablespoons of cold water while cutting into the flour. Now we're ready to dump it onto the counter and use our hands. If it's too dry, try adding another tablespoon or 2 of water. Create layers by rolling out the dough and folding it a few times to create this square-ish kind of shape. Wrap it in plastic wrap and allow it to chill in the fridge for an hour. To prep for pieification, roll out the dough on some parchment paper until it's a nice big circle. I didn't end up stretching mine out quite enough, so you're gonna see that I'm not really trimming as much as I should, and I'm not really making the edges look all nice and fancy, but you know what, who cares? And before this thing gets pre-baked, we have to fill this thing with beans. So just get some parchment paper and some dried beans, and yeah, just kind of fill it up. And then we're going to let that bake in the oven at 425 for about 20-ish minutes. While that's in the oven, let's prepare the pie filling. We'll take a 29-ounce can of pure pumpkin and dump it in a large mixing bowl. Follow that up with 4 eggs, 2 cups of brown sugar, and 1.5 cups of half and half. A dash of cinnamon, a dash of ginger powder, dash of salt, lots of dashes. Take a hand mixer and blend that all together until smooth. Looks like baby food. Finally, pour the filling into the pie crust, place it in the oven, set it to 350 degrees this time, and we're gonna let it bake for about an hour. And once that's out, you're gonna wanna let it sit for a couple hours to settle. So don't think you're gonna be eating this right away. And what do you know, it turns out that the homemade pie is quite a bit cheaper, so really no reason to get a Marie Callender's. Although I know you guys are getting the $5 pies at Costco anyway, don't lie to me. I have never claimed that I make pretty food on this show, and that goes to show here. No, you do not have to make a perfect looking crust in order to make a good pumpkin pie. So it looks like my pumpkin pie is just a little bit more shallow than the other one was. That's just because of the pie pan that I had, but I'm not knocking points off of my thing because of that. I also notice how not wet this is compared to Marie Callender's, but let's actually try it. It's not quite as rich as Marie Callender's, but I'm getting a lot more hints of that cinnamon and the other spices we threw into that. The homemade pie is slightly less of a blast in the face of pumpkin flavor, but it hits you where the spices are, and I think that's a really good thing. And the crust has a good crunch to it, and I think it all held together all quite nicely. It actually browned very nicely on the bottom. Thank you so much for watching this Thanksgiving episode of Thawed Out. If you want to see me make a full Thanksgiving dinner and compare it to a boxed meal, hit the card in the top right corner and it'll be in the description. If you enjoyed this and you were inspired to make your own pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving, subscribe, leave a like, and hit the bell for more Thawed Out.